Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, far left, far right. What do they stand for? Today I have the distinguished honor of interviewing one of the most outspoken and charismatic elected officials in New York City, Councilmember Charles Barron of Brooklyn's 42nd District. Now, I know about politics, but what are his politics? What's his stance? Is it true what they say? Is he a radical politician? What is radical politics? Explain to me what that is.
You know, radical means getting to the root of the problem. And oftentimes we organize around symptomology, the symptoms of the root causes. So instead of looking at the structure of capitalism and how it brings or yields unemployment, poverty, how it yields through racist institutions, racial profiling, foreclosures, inadequate health care, miseducation, all of these issues that are vital to our communities. If you're not into radical politics, then you're looking for anti-violence programs, you're looking for workforce development programs, and we should. But if this machine over here is producing all of that, and you never look at the very fundamental structure of the system, you're gonna have a problem. I'll give you another example. They said that the economic crisis was caused by deregulation, that they didn't have regulations for Wall Street. Well, that's correct to an extent. But even when Wall Street was regulated, black people were still catching it. We still were unemployed to the tune of 40 and 50% our youth, and 10, 15, 20% in our communities. We still were on the bottom. We still had poverty. We still had far too much homelessness and unemployment, even when there's no economic crisis, because it's not really deregulation, it's the very system of capitalism itself that's creating the problem. When you have the massive amount of wealth at the top, the 1%, and the 99% not sharing in that wealth and income, then you're going to have major, major problems. Something's fundamentally wrong with that system. When you pay more taxes than some of the corporations, something's fundamentally wrong with that system. So when we say radical politics, we want to get to the root causes of our oppression. We want to get our people involved with politics that's going to be unafraid to speak truth to power, unafraid to say that I'm running an electoral arena, we're going to talk black, we're going to talk radical, and still get elected and still deliver. And that's what we have been able to do. We should not be afraid of it. We have to redefine it for our people and raise their consciousness.
Are you a radical politician?
Absolutely. And I am proud to say I'm radical. I'm proud to say that we're getting to the root of the problem. I ran here in East New York, and people said, don't tell people you're a Black Panther. De-emphasize that. Go put on a shirt and tie. Go along to get along. And after you get in, you can say this and that. No, I was honest. And you know what? When I got in, we were able to renovate 3 parks, $17.5 million, more than any other council member. I am the #1 council member in building affordable housing, at least in Brooklyn, 6,000 units. Was able to bring in 2 new $80 million schools. Was able to have a black male initiative in CUNY, the City University of New York, $2.5 million over the last 7 years. And I could sit here for the rest of this taping and talk about the accomplishments. And I did this being strong, being black, calling racism what it is, taking on the mayor, the speaker, the governor. And I did this bringing Robert Mugabe to City Hall, the president of Zimbabwe. I did this going to Cuba, going to Venezuela to learn more about governments and how socialism works. I did all of this going to even Gaza, to the Gaza Strip in the Middle East, and bringing humanitarian aid for the Palestinian people, because we cannot afraid to be who we are, to be radicals, to be progressive, and the people will respond when you respond to their needs. When I was able to get people jobs and able to stop landlords for throwing people out, able to find shelter for people. When you meet the needs of the people, then the people will respect your politics.
Since your election to office, and I commend you on your victory while maintaining still to your core values and principles and your beliefs, what has been the biggest challenge for you as a city councilman?
You know, the biggest challenge is my colleagues. We have a city where blacks, Latino, and Asians make up 62% of the population. There are 8.2 million people in New York City. 2.3 million are Latino, 1.8 million are black. That's 4.1 million, more than half. 1 million are Asian. 5 million plus are black, Latino, and Asian. 2.7 million whites. We live in a city where there's a city council that passes the budget, that's our power. We pass laws, we determine how land is going to be used, and we have oversight over city agencies. 51 city council members and 27 are people of color, 24 whites, 14 blacks, 11 Latinos, and 2 Asians. Why is it that we have Christine Quinn, Speaker of the City Council? Why didn't we choose a black person or a Latino person or even an Asian person? Anything but another white person, because whites have always led the City Council. We're the new majority. We have the majority in the City Council. We should have had that power position. What frustrates me is that we can't get the 14 blacks to be strong enough to stand up to the Speaker and for their community. Same thing with the Latinos. They go along to get along. They're afraid to take on the Speaker, and they're the majority. That's been the most frustrating thing. So George Steinbrenner and the Yankees can come to the City Council, get hundreds of millions of dollars worth of tax breaks, promise jobs that never come, and this council will pass it. Ratner can get money out of the City Council to help build the Nets an arena. This council will pass it. NYU will come by to expand itself in Greenwich Village. This council will pass it. Columbia University comes to gentrify Harlem and buy up the real estate in Harlem. This council will pass it. We have a $68 billion budget, balancing the budget off the backs of poor working class people, cutting summer youth programs. 83,000 slots when I first came in 10 years ago, and now we're down to 31,000 summer youth slots for 140,000 young people. This council passed that. That's the most frustrating thing when like Adam Clayton Powell said, use what's in your hands. You got the power in your hands, and you give it right back to others, instead of you taking control of the resources that can positively impact us. That's been the most frustrating thing for me.
Councilman, we'd like to thank you for your time. Is there any final words that you have for your call for movement, your call for change?
Well, you know, thank you. I thank you for the time, for the questions that were thought-provoking. And this is a time, this is the greatest time for us to be alive. This is the greatest time for us to take control of our lives. And that means the politics that influence our lives. So I'm calling on us to wake up every morning fired up. You know, we got to do this for Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, for Fannie Lou Hamer, for Harriet Tubman, for all those who came before us, for the Black Panthers that are in prison now, our political prisoners. We have to rise up and get involved for the people who shed so much blood. Most of us aren't here because you're smart or talented or intelligent. As intelligent as you are and as creative as you are, none of this would be going down if some people didn't fire up this country and say, you better respect us. And for those people, we have a responsibility, we have an obligation to continue that struggle. And when we get up, don't be no punks and take things out on each other. Don't be no punks and and get into electoral politics and be afraid to stand up to the powers that be. We have to be assertive, black men and women. We have to be responsible, black men and women, and say to our people that it's time for us to join this movement. Join the Freedom Party. If you can't join the Freedom Party, join the Nation of Islam. You know, join other groups that are doing positive things in our community. Join Andre Mitchell and Man Up. They're doing great things. Join the December 12th movement, who's doing so much work internationally and domestically with us. Join some organization fighting for liberation. You can't be sitting back complaining. Nobody cares about your complaints. They only will move when they are pressured by you, when they fear you, when you can deliver something politically, economically, or socially that's going to raise some concern, when you can stop the city from functioning, when you can take your $900 billion that you are as a consumer nation and saying, I'm not consumering with you anymore, that I'm going to hold back my money until you treat us with some respect. I'm going to hold back my vote until you treat us with some respect. I'm going to put my vote here. I'm going to take it to the streets and shut this city down if we're not respected. That's radical politics. That's real. That ain't a thing of the 60s. You better do everything you can to be liberated. Protest, vote, spend your money with each other, march, demonstrate, hold press conferences. You better do everything in your power to fight for your liberations, because we are people who dare to live, and we are people who refuse to die. Our struggle may be long, but the victory is certain.
Councilman, thank you again.
Thank you.
And that concludes our preliminary discussion on radical politics and power.
Take me to the streets. 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 Take me to the streets.